Morning and welcome back to the wildlands. And today I've got an extra video for you, as we've had a lot of questions about getting Starlink on the wildlands and how we power it and what our solution is when we don't have an off-grid solar system. The short answer is we power it with a fabulous Bluetti EB70 box. So enjoy tonight's episode and we'll talk you through Starlink and our Bluetti box. In July 2021, with the increase in travel restrictions caused by Brexit and the pandemic, we decided to buy off-grid land in Portugal to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Follow along with our journey as we turn our beautiful but derelict land into our very own slice of off-grid heaven, wildlands.
So here we are on the drive of the wildlands, and I've got my Bluetti, which is an EB70 here, just plugged into the Power Oak solar panels behind us, which are 120 watts. And the Bluetti is a more powerful box to a lot of the solar boxes that you'll see other van life people and off-gridders have. So this box has got a 1000 watt inverter, and it's got a 716 watt capacity, so it's got a very high capacity. And then this is our Starlink dish, which you can see it's quite small, not very intrusive, and it has an engine in it, or a little motor, so this does move. It also has a heater and a snow detector, so if you're living off-grid or you're travelling around in your van and you're stopping in cold places, or you live somewhere that gets cold in the winter like we do here, it will detect frost and snow, turn the heater on and melt that for you. So at the moment we've got our Starlink very professionally installed on the drive, and we just move it around. So the only small issue with the Starlink is you've got a lot of satellites up in the sky, and the dish moves and it locks on to the closest satellite with the strongest signal. So to give you some stats, with it on the drive without a clear line of sight, and it's worth mentioning that you get an excellent app with the Starlink, and you can wave your phone around wherever you're thinking of putting your Starlink, or if you've got your Starlink on a camper van on the RV option, so that you can park anywhere in the world and set your Starlink up and get internet, you can wave your phone around and it will give you a percentage of the blockages and the line of sight for the dish, and you can move it around to get the better location. So we're intending of installing ours on the top of our shade house as part of our upgrades here on the wildlands, with people coming to stay and visit us, and also to make our infrastructure easier generally all round. So what are we doing at the moment? How are we powering our Starlink? How does it compare to, say, Vodafone Portugal? And what can the EB70 Bluetti box do for my Starlink? So, as I mentioned earlier, the EB70 is much more powerful than a lot of the boxes on the market, and it's a little bit heavier, but still quite easy to carry around. It's got a good handle on it, much stronger than the earlier Bluettis. And on the top, you can charge your phone wirelessly, and then we plug the Starlink into EU sockets because we're in Portugal, but the Bluetti will come with the sockets for your country. So if you're in the UK, you'll get 2 UK plug sockets, and then you've got all the plug-in options you'd want for other things. So you can plug in USBs, you've got 12 volt, a cigarette lighter here, you've got a torch, so you can charge up your portable music boxes, laptops. I use this all the time when I'm editing as well, and it's much more powerful than my other solution, so it's my favourite go-to choice. So I'm recommending the Bluetti EB70. So back to Starlink. So we plug it in, and I saw a thread on Facebook where people were saying that it wouldn't be possible to power Starlink on a box like the Bluetti, which, as with anything internet-wise, is people who haven't actually done it who are making a presumption. They're also stating that Starlink uses around 140 watts consistently to run it, so it wouldn't be suitable to run on this kind of box. And again, frankly, complete rubbish from somebody who's actually doing it every day. The Starlink, when you power it up, i.e. plug it into your lovely Bluetti, for about 5 minutes while it's booting up, it goes up to about 60 to 75 watts of usage, and that's because the motor in the dish is running briefly while it finds a satellite, and then when it's connected to a satellite, it sort of idles and averages sort of around 25 to 40 watts. So if you were running it for 10 hours on the Bluetti, you might use 400, 450 watts and you've got a 716 watt capacity. So you can easily run your Starlink for a whole day while you're working on the Bluetti and still probably have enough juice left to run it for a second whole day. So if you're working or using it 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day, you probably get 4 or 5 days use out of the Bluetti without charging it up. So I tend to put the Bluetti on the table, plug my laptop in, plug Starlink in. My laptop is power hungry, uses about 120 watts. So if I'm running Starlink as well, I might be averaging 160, 170 watts. So I'd get about 5 hours on my laptop, but it's worth pointing out that I've got a high-end, high-speed gaming laptop which uses about twice the power of a lot of smaller laptops. So obviously you need to work out the capacities of your own items that you want to run on the Bluetti, and then you can get a rough idea of how much time you might get to use it. But what I do is I plug my laptop in the shade, have the Bluetti on the table in the shade, and then I plug in the PowerOak solar panels in the sun. So if I get 100 watts an hour out of my solar panels, and these do have a capacity of going up to 120 watts, I'm only using slightly more power running my laptop and the Starlink than I'm getting back in from these, so then I can get days and days and days of work while simultaneously charging and running the Bluetti at the same time. Obviously if you're running small USB fans in the hot weather or in your van, their wattage capacity may only be 3 or 4 watts. So you get days and days of charge without plugging your Bluetti in. You can also plug the Bluetti into the cigarette lighter in your vehicle or anywhere else that you can plug in. So if you were in a house, you can plug that in to charge it up before you go away in your van, fully charged. And it does have a fast charge, so that was very exciting for us because we do have other solar box options which take a very, very long time to charge, and this is really, really speedy. So if you're plugged in your van or you've got really good solar, you can realistically get a full charge in half a day, maybe 5 hours, 6 hours tops, sometimes a lot more if you can get your panels to get to full wattage if it's a nice sunny day. And it will take bigger panels, so you can go up to 200 watts, so you can get quite a lot of power coming back into the Bluetti to charge it up quickly. So the Bluetti gets a great big thumbs up from me. So let me tell you a bit about Starlink. So it's obviously high-end technology, but it's really simple to use. So when it arrives, you literally get a big box with the dish, which is just the dish itself, which requires no assembly, and the stand, which clips onto the dish. It's really easy, and a long cable, which is 75 foot, and then you can mount the dish on the floor, move it around if you're traveling, or you can mount it permanently on the roof of your building, on the side of your house, or in our case on the top of the shade house, which is where we're intending to mount it. And you need line of sight because the dish, as I mentioned earlier, moves with its little motor, so it finds the closest satellite to give you the best possible signal. So what does that mean for us off-grid in terms of the amount of data that we can and can't use? So on Vodafone Portugal, which is one of several major providers here, on our land we get full 4G most of the time, but that only gives us a maximum of 9 megabytes download and 3 megabytes upload. But generally speaking, we get 3 download and less than 1 megabyte per second upload. So the issue we have is, we're YouTubers obviously, as you know, watching this video, is it would take me 7 or 8 hours with my laptop on to upload a video to YouTube. So I'm wasting a lot of power and electricity either out of my van or from my Bluetti while I run my laptop for the whole day. So the Bluetti will run my laptop for a whole day, which is brilliant, but it obviously uses up a lot of power, and when you're off grid or traveling in a van, power is king, and certainly maintaining your availability of power and then managing what you're using versus the weather. And if it's not the summer, sometimes solar can be at a premium, so you definitely don't want to be uploading on a high-speed laptop for 8 hours of the day. With Starlink, I can upload a 2 gig video, the same as the one that just took me 8 hours on Vodafone Portugal, and it took me 23 minutes. So that means it's a lot quicker, very, very fast, less frustration for me, and it makes my job a lot easier because I can plug my laptop into the Bluetti for half an hour, I can hit upload. I've only used 140 watts in an hour if it was uploading, so I might only use 70-80 watts of its power, which is less than 10%, so I've still got 90% left for other things that I might want to do in the day. Or it might mean Rosie does a lot of gaming, so if I'm not caning the power on my laptop to upload to YouTube, the 7 hours that I'm saving with Starlink, she has available to use the Bluetti for gaming on the laptop. So Starlink, big thumbs up from me, absolutely superb, super fast. On a poor day where I've got it situated somewhere where it's not getting line of sight, I still get 70, 80, 90 megabytes a second download and 35 to 50 upload. So really, having tried it out for a couple of weeks, spot on, absolutely game changing for people travelling or off-grid, despite an initial quite expensive cost. So in euros it was 564 euros for the kit, so about 500 quid in English money, maybe a bit less. And they've just dropped their monthly fee, so it's 65 euros a month now, so it's gone down by a third in the last week, so that's excellent. So it works out, particularly as it's completely unlimited with no capping. So if you compare it to Vodafone, I'm on an unlimited contract, I get unlimited data, but when you look at the small print, it actually means I get 1 gig per day that is not capped or throttled at the full speed that they can provide wherever I might be. So on the wildlands, it's the speed I was getting earlier, but when I'm uploading a 2 gig video, once I go past the 1 gig threshold, whilst my data is still unlimited, the speed drops radically, hence it taking 8 hours to upload. So Starlink doesn't do that. There's no throttling, so whatever speed you get is the speed you get all the time, and it might get super fast, ridiculously speedy and fast, or just drop to acceptably super really fast. So thumbs up from me. So I've put a link to the EB70 in the comments, and there is some discounts going for you lovely subscribers. So if you're living remotely off-grid like us, or travelling in a van, camper van, moho, or maybe you're living on a boat, or you're living any kind of alternative lifestyle, maybe you want to go fishing for a long weekend and you need a power solution with the higher spec of the Bluetti EB70, it's a definite game changer for all people living alternative lifestyles, so it gets a really massive thumbs up from us, particularly the fact that it charges up a lot quicker and is so much more efficient than many of the other boxes on the market. So good thumbs up for me. So as always, thanks for watching, and if you've got any more technical questions either about the Bluetti, you can check the link in the comments or ask me any questions about any uses I might have put her through, or if you've got any more in-depth questions about Starlink, setting it up, what I think, does get a massive thumbs up, but any questions welcomed in the comments. And as always, thanks for listening to my wafflings, and I'll see you in a few days with another video from the wildlands. Don't forget, if you haven't, hit the subscribe button, give us a like. I'd love to hear from you, so drop us a comment, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.